Okay, so that's The Witcher Enhanced Edition. So, I'm actually going to start my Let's Play review of this right now during credits because I believe that this is the best opportunity for this, considering my video decided to stop recording mid-cutscene. So, let's cover the basics. Music. I thought the music was great. I thought the lute players and the subtleties of each room and place you went to was good. There was some repetitive music that was throughout the game, but I found that most of the music did capture the essence of what we were looking to experience in the Witcher game. So there was that. Now, I thought the cinematics, there weren't that many cinematics. There was like lore kind of parchment cinematic, which I thought were kind of cool. But I did not feel like they were put in the right place throughout the story. I felt like a lot of times they came up and they seemed very, I don't know, like the Striga one should have happened right after the Striga, maybe leading up to the idea of maybe there was going to be an alliance problem, as opposed to waiting so much past. For me, it was because I guess it takes so much time to get to that point that when you get to this, like, oh, you killed the Striga, I feel like I killed the Striga 3 hours ago. Like, it takes a long time. But the intro cinematic, the original saving of the princess, and the end cinematic, well, I thought they were great. I actually thought this ending cinematic was going to be leading into Assassins of Kings because he was going to be framed, but it doesn't look like that's how it's ending, at least if there's no after credits. Graphics, so for the time, the game's obviously a very old game. Graphically, I thought that the game was actually really pretty for an older game. They did a good job with upgrading the animations for the enhanced edition, so I thought that was very good. However, I think that the graphics, I have a really good computer, but the graphics I feel are part of maybe what the problem is with this older game trying to do so many things, leading to way too many crashes throughout the game. My biggest probably gripe with this game is how many times it would freeze up in cutscenes. And again, my computer's a powerful computer. I'm running other games on high to medium settings with not a hiccup, and it's old game. Even with lowered settings, still was having a lot of issues with crashing, and I think that there's a lot of bugs with the graphics in the game that are impacting this. Now, in terms of content, there's a lot to do in this game. I could probably put another 80 hours into this game with the speed and time that I would want to take with leveling up the character and exploring the world more and just being a beast of a Witcher. That being said, I feel like the content delivery was extremely poor in this game. The initial story, linear, okay? You got one mission, you make one path choice, you follow that one mission, you explore Kaer Morhen. After you leave Kaer Morhen, everything is so, like, confusing and it's very forgettable in terms of, like, what was I doing last? If I didn't play for a week, I was like, oh, shit, I don't remember what the hell I was doing. So, I think in terms of content, the content, there was a lot of stuff to do, but sometimes I felt like there was just an overload of content. Like, you would go into a place, you'd go into a and there would be just a ton of stuff and things to do, and you sit there and you're just like, I don't know what I'm looking to achieve when I go to this new area and I get all these new quests, and it just seems like it's overwhelming. Um, oh, and it looks like you don't get to even continue the file. Great. Well, we'll do new adventures. So, I think, there's a lot to be said about what the game could offer, but at the same time, because of the delivery of these things and the lack of direction with questing and you're trying to go around and you're trying to figure out things. It's just there's so many people to interact with and like to indicate like merchants. Like the one person was a peddler. I must have talked to a bunch of peddlers and people that were like merchant-like characters. You would never know it. And then like this one guy was a peddler who was selling rings and stuff in the trade quarter. So, I mean, I'm sorry, the temple quarter. But it, oh, it's a really big gripe. Now I get it. It's an older game. It's their first time. So, I know that come future Witchers when I play the next one, and the third one, I'm sure that this is not going to be a problem. But as a game, if I'm reviewing it as it is, the fact of the matter is the delivery of these quest lines and things, and getting you to kind of understand, and it was a lot to take in, and since there's so much you're doing, and you start taking this and you start taking that, and it wasn't until like chapter 3 and 4 that I felt like I could really kind of keep up, but then it wasn't as much. Chapter 2 was daunting. Chapter 1 wasn't as bad. Chapter 2, I felt like, I don't know, I was just running around forever. Chapter 3, I had the same problem, though. Not as bad. But Chapter 2, I felt like it was just never going to end. I felt like I kept going through the freaking swamp too much. So, lots of content, which makes it fun if you can navigate it. Story-wise, I thought the story was pretty good. Again, because of the delivery, the main story, I feel like gets lost in a lot of stuff. But there's a lot of interesting story-related content, even towards the books, that is in the game, which I thought was really good. Specifically, when you're chapter 4, for instance, you get to the inn, you start talking to the innkeeper, he starts telling you the story about Cirilla, who obviously is not featured in this game, nor is Yennefer, but those two characters in the books are huge main characters. I did romance Triss throughout the game, and I don't... If there was the option to romance Yennefer, Triss would never have been picked. Period. Because to keep it truer to the stories, while there was flings here and there, Yennefer was always the true love. So, but I played it towards like the whole memory part that he didn't have his memory, and she was kind of playing on that. So, I think that in terms of story content, you had a pretty decent story and like a good, I'd say, drive at the beginning that the Salamander came and stole Witcher secrets. And then it just gets lost in this politics of stuff. Now, as a reader of the books, that does kind of happen, but I feel like it didn't translate well in the first game as it did in the books. Like, for me to get lost on a side quest, I didn't feel like it was worth my time sometimes. There was no, like, am I going to get experience for this? Is like, am I going to get anything for this? Like, and like, well, I get that sometimes it happened to him in the stories. It lacked a certain... the experience. So understand that I did like the story for the most part. Some spots were a little bit... the decision making, I sided with the Scoia'tael. I could have sided with the Rose, the Order of the Rose. I did end up looking up one aspect of that, so my decision wasn't influenced, but it was going forward. So I had decided to side with the Scoia'tael initially, but then when I looked up something, I got a spoiler, and that further supported my decision, so I kept sticking with it. But a lot of areas in the storytelling leave you kind of the responses are too, I think, ambiguous that you don't even know you're going to lead into the next thing. It seems like you might have another dialogue choice, and then you don't. So there was that piece of the storytelling. Gameplay. So I'm going to break this into a couple pieces. Alchemy gameplay. So making potions, I actually thought that was pretty cool. I liked the idea of making potions. However, I never learned anything about making potions. The problem with the potion system is there's so many materials and things to use for crafting potions. and everything's auto selected, so you're really not sitting there. I guess I guess you could, but I never sat there and took the time to research and read and like understand every little aspect because it quite frankly wasn't necessary. And maybe on a harder difficulty it would be that I would want to try to enhance my swallow potion so that it had a stronger effect like the last one I used in the game. But the fact is, the alchemy system is a cool system that could be better implemented. I don't know what to expect in the future games. I've heard Witcher 3 doesn't really have one. I'm hoping that it does, because I thought it was a cool system, but I think it just needs to be less complex in terms of the materials, or streamlined in a different way that makes it easier to learn and understand, like just in terms of like rarity and things like that. So the alchemy system. Now, I love the skill system. The skill tree system was cool. Um, a lot to do there. The signas. Um, they fit what's basically some of the stuff that he does in the book. So it fit pretty well. The fighting. So I played mouse and keyboard the whole playthrough because you can't use a controller, and it's very finicky. It's not. I don't think it's a bad combat system. So understand when I talk about the combat system here, I don't think that the combat system is necessarily a bad combat system. I actually think that the combat system was pretty decent in terms of what it was trying to do. Um, the issue that I had with the combat system was that it seemed very inconsistent. There was times where I couldn't cast spells, and there were times where I would click to attack, and then nothing would happen. And then I would click again, and then it would say I clicked too fast, and I was like, well, I wasn't attacking already. So the combat system was a little bit broken, and in how it was translated. If it was more like a Dragon Age combat system where you clicked and it auto attacked, and then you could select skills or combos to do, maybe, I think that would have worked better. However, it's not that I dislike this combat system because I think that it was a very unique combat system, and in future games, if it was more fleshed out and maybe more fluid, it would actually be a kind of cool way to enhance the combat of a game like this, where you're kind of running around and attacking a bunch of monsters, and rather than having just auto attack animation, you can continue the combo or enhance the combo during a combo to maybe change how the combo progresses. Similar to maybe how Bayonetta works, where you can you can press a series of buttons, and that combination of buttons leads to a specific combo. So, but obviously because you're using the mouse, you only have the upgrading of that combo as you just level up. So the combat was okay in that regard. Definitely felt like a Dragon Age game to me, for the most part, except that it was more active than a Dragon Age game. So I liked it. It was very finicky, like a lot of other stuff in this game. Inventory management sucked. That's pretty much it. It sucked. I hated it. I hated not knowing a lot of stuff. Too many items. Too much stuff to grab throughout the universe. Bottles of water serve no purpose. Food's effect is so insignificant, it seems pointless to pick up until you need it, and then you're like, oh my god, I gotta give this person food. So, too much stuff in the game that just seemed like it was there for the sake of being there. But the environments, I think, were pretty nice and kind of like that, what I would imagine a Witcher game to have. So I thought that the environment details and graphics style was good. Obviously, dated graphics, so it doesn't look gorgeous. But overall, I would actually give this game a 6 out of 10. Primarily giving a lot of the strength to the music, the story, and especially as the story progresses and the dialogues progress later into the game, it gets much better than at the very beginning of the game. It seems very rigid and robotic. The later part of the game is better, though the voice acting for some of the characters definitely needs to be vastly improved, which I think it is in the future games. But that's what I would rate The Witcher Enhanced Edition for the PC. This has been your Let's Play review, episode 4. Apologize for the strange beginning and slightly louder music at the beginning, but that is how we're going to do this episode. See ya.